All right, let's get it going.
Hi.
Good morning. How was your weekend?
Amazing. I did my first open house.
Nice. How'd it go?
Awesome. It was great. Not a lot of traffic, but I did have a few people stop by. So that was good. And then I got the experience. I put out my signs. I met some of the neighbors. It was really good.
Good. Good. That's awesome. Any names and numbers?
I'm one. So just follow up with that one.
You put that in your CRM?
Not yet, but it's on my list to do it today.
Okay. Okay. All right. We're good. Well, today's will fit kind of right in with what you're doing then. So today's is the offer to purchase.
Okay, yeah.
So let's move this up.
So basically, this is how to submit an offer.
Mhm.
Okay, good. I need to know that. I was like, I don't know how to do it.
So you meet this client on Saturday at the open house. They're interested in the house. Like, how do we put the offer in? What's the paperwork? So we're gonna go through some of that this morning. So
Okay.
perfect timing.
Yeah.
So you already have your yard signs and stuff?
Yep. Let me show you. I don't know if I can show you on this thing, but I got these magnets on my car. Oh my God, it's so cute. Let me show you, Brian. See if I can find it really quick. I have a ton of pictures. So this is how it turned out. Oh, this is the camera. This is how it turned out.
Oh, nice.
And they
like
they cut it in the shape of it. Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. The guys at Tier 1 did it.
Okay, yeah, that looks really good.
Then I did some signs and stuff too. I don't know where that's at. It's somewhere in here. Not my camera rolls is like a mom's camera roll. It's like a ton of pictures of the kids.
Oh, Justin, I know.
Yeah. So, here's one. My son, he was actually putting out the signs.
Oh, that's awesome.
For the open house. Yeah, so I got the signs, I got the magnets. I just have to get the listing one. I'm waiting on them to make that because they make that kind of like pretty fast. So I'm waiting on them to make the listing side and then I'm good to go. I had to order more business cards because I'm like basically over halfway of giving them out.
Always do it.
But I can get the information. Like I know, like when you give the business cards, they'll say, "Hey, yo, let me get your contact too, just in case." So I have like 3 or 4 buyer clients under contract, and Andrea helped me figure out how to do the buyer contracts, like the buyer agreements. So one of them have a pre-approval. I'm waiting on the other ones. So I need to know how to do the offers.
Yeah, all right. Let's do some offers then. Okay. Let's see.
How was your weekend?
It was great. It was nice. For once we had good weather. So we stayed pretty busy. So we were at the pool, at the lake. We got a little mom and dad time yesterday. We went down to
that's awesome.
Her parents watched our son, so we went down to the new Sycamore Brewery yesterday.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was nice. We went to bed at 9:30 last night. We were very tired.
Yes. Do you usually go to bed at 8? Because I usually
no, we usually go to bed around like 10:30 or 11.
I usually go to bed at 8, but now ever since I started this, I'm like, okay, like we're not getting to bed till like 10.
Oh man, 8 o'clock is early. Yeah. If I went to bed at 8, I'd be up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so I get up at like 3:30.
Okay, then that works. Yeah.
But it makes sense like that I go to sleep at 8. So now since it's summer and the kids are home, like, okay, we're gonna have to switch the schedule because they're gonna be expecting me to, do things with them and keep them busy.
Right.
Okay, what's our affirmation?
Let's see. So money flows to me freely and easily from expected and unexpected sources.
I like it.
You are already on that path. Money flows to me freely and easily from expected and unexpected sources.
I like affirmations.
I know.
I can't help it. Okay. All right.
So you have a couple buyers. So we'll just talk about some of the paperwork that we use, right? So you have, let's just say one of your buyers under contract. What paperwork do you have signed from them?
We did the working with real estate agents, and then we did the what is it? The buyer agency agreement.
Exclusive buyer agency agreement.
Yeah, exclusive buyer agency agreement, and that's it. So those two.
Okay. So yeah, that's so having that on as many people is great, right? So you're going to get that. You're going to go into SkySlope, create that, so you have all that stored in there, and then also kind of know like what time frame, right? Like, what link did you do?
What do you, the form on SkySlope?
No, the length of the agency agreement.
Oh, to the end of the year. So Andrea
Yes, okay.
said if they have to do, like, if they're actively looking now, do basically to the end of the year, and then if not, then just do 1 year.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So that's even better. What I was going to recommend. I would recommend doing at least 6 months. If you can do longer, do longer. I mean, you'll kind of know. Like some people are just like starting the process, and maybe it's going to be years to do it. You obviously do it as long as you can. But I would always recommend doing at least 6 months, if not longer. So yeah, I think that's perfect.
So if you don't do 6 months, then do 1 full year.
Or to the end of the year. I mean, I just, if you some new agents will just go on there and do like a 3-week agency agreement. Well, if you get them under contract, your agency agreement be up before it's even over, right? And if that contract falls through, now they're not in agreement anymore, and you've got to re-sign paperwork. So yeah, the longer you can get it done, the better. And it sounds like you're already confident in asking for it, so we don't have to spend hours on that. That is honestly the biggest hurdle for new agents. That's literally the biggest hurdle we have, is getting them to feel comfortable, getting them to sign that, working with real estate agents and that the buyer agency agreement. So it's all in how you phrase it. Say, look, this allows me to give you my undivided attention and help you out. And when you phrase it like that, it's a pretty much a no-brainer, right? So phenomenal job doing that. Have you seen the after purchase? Have you looked at that much?
No. So I really need to work on it this week.
Yes. So hopefully you'll be using it soon. So the exclusive and non-exclusive buyer agency, obviously, if you can only do exclusive buyer agency agreements, that's the best, because you don't want them signing agreements with other agents. But that's up to you. The offer to purchase contract, which we're going to look here in a minute, contingencies, seller disclosures, counter offers, multiple counter offers. So we'll get into all that stuff. I find that on this one, it's just easier just to kind of like go through the paperwork as opposed to just like looking at the slide. So I'm just going to share. Let me just share my screen. So
okay.
So I'm going to go through kind of a mock contract, right? Okay. So we have the exclusive buyer agency agreement. We have the working with a real estate agency disclosure, right? Then we have so this is the offer to purchase, right? So when your client finds a house that they like, and you're going to submit an offer, what things are you going to submit to that listing agent?
I don't know, the offer to purchase and proof of funds or something. I keep seeing earnest money. I don't know.
Okay. No. I mean, you shouldn't know all of it, but are you going to send them your agency agreement and you're working with a real estate agent?
Oh, I don't know. No, do I send them that?
No.
Okay.
All right. So you're not going to send me either one of these. You're going to send them the offer to purchase. You're going to send them proof of funds, right? And
what consists of proof of funds? Like the statement from the bank accounts, or when you ask them for
either proof of funds or pre-approval, right? So for the majority of people, it's going to be a pre-approval for the lender, right?
Okay.
And understand you're sending that with the offer, right? So that means if you're talking to clients and they haven't even started that process, you need to kind of have them jumping on the ball as you're looking at, or even before you're looking at houses, right? Because if they love something and they don't have that pre-approval, then a lot of times someone's not going to accept that offer until they have that, especially in a hot market like this where they can just accept someone else's offer that has that pre-approval. So you want to kind of make sure that that's done and ready. so offer to purchase, pre-approval or proof of funds. What else?
And is it more? Okay, so offer the purchase, the pre-approval or proof of funds. Do we submit earnest money deposit or no? Because in some listings they say that like the listing agent or that company doesn't hold earnest money.
Right. So no, that's done after the offer is accepted. So
okay.
What about disclosures?
I don't know.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do when I'm putting an offer is I'm going to go ahead and have my client sign the property disclosures. What other disclosures are there?
I don't know, Brian. Like a 0 out of 0. I don't know anything about this.
Okay, so no, this is good. So there's your property disclosures. There's in North Carolina is oil, mineral, gas disclosure. So you're gonna have both of those on every house. Okay, so property disclosures, oil, mineral, gas, and then depending on the age of the house, you're also gonna have lead-based paint.
Okay. Is that before 1978, something like that, right?
You got it. So depending on the age, if it's a newer house, you're not going to have that. If it's an older house, then you're going to have that. So, now where are you going to get that from?
Where do we get the forms? Are they not in our? No, they might not be. Are they not in SkySlope? No.
Yeah, a blank property disclosure would be, but you're putting an offer on someone's house.
Okay.
So we got to go into here, right? So we're going to use this house as an example. This is a house that one of my clients likes. So you're going to go into, this is the MLS and it's going to be under documents. So you're going to click on documents.
Oh my gosh. I've been on the MLS multiple times and I never saw that.
So this has your, as you see, oil, mineral, gas. It has property disclosures. You notice there's no lead-based paint, and we can look, and this is made in 2009. So they're not going to need that. So we go back in here. This other stuff is nice to have, right? The CCRs, bylaws. A lot of people are going to ask, can I have a cat? Can I add this onto my deck? Can I do this? Can I do that? Well, you can find that in the covenants.
So what does CCR stand for? Like, what does it mean?
It's the rules and regulations for like the neighborhood or the condo.
Okay.
All the other HOA docs, which they've put it, which is they've done a great job of putting this in. A lot of people don't put all this in. HOA docs, the balance sheet. They've got the floor plan in here, which is very nice, right? But for you, you're going to want to download these two. So we'll just do that, and I'm going to upload it into my paperwork. So the reason we're using theirs is because their sellers already signed it, right? So when you write up an offer, it's going to ask you, has your buyer seen the disclosures? And you want to be able to say yes, right? And why is that?
Because they have, like, it pertains to the property, right? So they have to know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason is you wouldn't want to lead someone to put an offer on a property if they haven't seen the disclosures, right? Because they're putting down due diligence money that they're not going to get back. So if they haven't even seen the disclosures, you really haven't done your job, right? Because they, there could be, on some of these disclosures, they're checking yes, there's stuff wrong with stuff, and they need to know that in advance. Even though they've hopefully seen the house already, you just want to make sure that they've gone through all this, and ideally, if you we'll get into property disclosures in another one, but in an ideal world, you want no's all the way down, right? Because it means no, there's nothing wrong with anything, right?
Okay.
If you see a yes, that means yes, there's something wrong, and then they have to answer why it's yes. And then you also have no representation, right? So what does no representation mean? They just genuinely don't know about it. This one actually has several no representation, and they put, is there water leakage in the basement? They put no representation because they don't know, right? It's a condo. They're on the 7th floor. They have no idea what's going on under the house, right?
Okay.
Under the condo unit.
So would this part tell you like when the roof was replaced or what year the roof?
So that's literally one of the very first ones. So when was the dwelling put in, and then the roof was installed. This says 14 years ago.
Okay.
It's going to have the heat pump, so the furnace 6 years ago. So all that, as much of that stuff as the listing agent fills out will be right here, right?
Okay.
So this is a good thing to look at to make sure there's no major red flags right before you submit an offer. I'll download that. So your buyer is going to put an offer on this house potentially. They're FHA, right? Do you think this house would be a good fit for them?
No.
Why?
Because on the property finance, it says cash and conventional.
Oh my goodness. Man, honestly, God, I normally sit for 10 minutes and wait for people to answer that. Yes, that's correct. Very good. So yeah, so I mean, that's good. Yeah, so if that's the case and you're not seeing the whatever financing that your client has for a property, I'm not going to show it to them. And if they really love it, I'm going to call this agent, and this agent is Paul. And I'm saying, hey, Paul, like I see on your listing on Royal Court that you don't have FHA. Is it because your client just doesn't want to deal with FHA financing, or is there a reason that you think this home won't go to FHA?
Okay.
And figure out why. And sometimes I'll just say, A, I just forgot to click it, which isn't uncommon. Or B, yeah, this house has a bad floor in it, and we don't think it'll go through that type of finance, right? Because FHA is stricter than conventional, right? It also doesn't have VA or USDA or anything else on here. So, but there are times where agents just only click cash and conventional, and there's no reason behind it. I've been in this building before. There's no reason that it wouldn't, I think, would not go FHA. It's a very nice building. So if your client really loved this and they were FHA, I would call the agent, right?
Okay. So Brian, another thing, how do you know what kind of financing your client has? Like when they send the pre-approval, does it say it there? Or how do you know? Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, typically, yeah, it's that's not really anything that we control most times. But again, the benefit of you, and I know after we talked last week that you were going to meet with the lender, knowing the lender that you send people to is nice, because you can say, hey, this house is this. It's an older house. Maybe if we can go conventional, it might be best. Or, hey, let's do FHA because she doesn't have much money down, and this is going to be a better route on this house. And your lender can kind of steer which way is going to be best depending on the type of house. If they're using their own lender, that's a little bit harder to do. Then you just have to kind of go with what your client's given you, right?
Okay.
Versus you being able to talk to the lender is going to be usually pretty helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, to answer your question directly, yeah, on the pre-approval, it'll say your client's approved for, let's just say 725 at a rate of 5.75 with 5% down FHA, right? Okay. So it would have it on there.
Okay. Now, a thing about the process, like I know every agent does their own have their own kind of way of doing things. Is it better for them to get sent to the lender to get the pre-approval first, or to find something that they like and then go to the lender?
I'd always rather them have a pre-approval first.
Yeah, that's what I'm
saying. And then ideally, like, so for example, your client might be approved for $1 million, right? But I want to know that we have that pre-approval, because that's easy, because they have to do a little bit of work to get a pre-approval, right? Mm-hmm. But then when you find the specific property that you like this one, and let's just say this one's been on the market for 67 days, so we're probably going to offer a little bit less, right? On the market for over 2 months. Say we're going to offer 630. I'm going to ask the lender, say, hey, can you send me approval for 630? And then they're going to redo that offer letter, right?
Okay.
And some people would just use that pre-approval blanket for whatever properties they put offers on, and you can do that. But when I got a pre-approval over the weekend. My house was listed at 850, and the pre-approval said 900 on it. the issue with that, and they put an offer under list, is my seller was thinking, well, they're pre-approved for 900. Why wouldn't they just give me the full price, right?
Yeah, that
you
makes
know,
sense.
when you look at it from both sides, you understand, like, yeah. So if you can do a custom one for each one you put an offer on, your lender's not going to get mad. You just shoot them an email, say, hey, can you give me a pre-approval? They can do it in 5 minutes. They can just shoot you an email
Okay.
once their pre-approval is already done. But yes, having the pre-approval done in advance is always ideal.
Okay.
So let's go back. So let's upload, and I use a different paperwork than
So
than
you
SkyFlow.
downloaded those? Did you download?
Right. So I downloaded those, and I'm gonna upload them back up. Right.
Okay.
So let's open them up.
Well, it has autofill. That's good.
So autofill stuff is in there. So that's a huge. The seller. All right. So I know the property, right? The property, the seller's name is, well, it's on here on this one, but typically the seller's name is not going to be on here. Where would I find the seller's name?
On the public records, they're realist or no?
So if you just go to right here on this home page.
Oh, okay. Parcel ID.
Yeah, which takes you directly into realist.
Oh, yeah, but see, yeah. So I learned. I know you got a realist. I didn't know you got that.
But yeah, so when you're on any specific property, you can always click parcel ID and it'll take you right there. The other way to get there, obviously, is to go to public records and click on realist, and then search either by last name or address.
Okay.
Right. But when you're on a specific property, it's easy just to click right on there. So this one is Charles Penner. So I'm just going to copy that. And then we'll go back to my document, because you want to have that on there. This property will or will not include a manufactured home, right? This one does not, but you do need to have that clicked. I have a listing I'm trying to take right now in Rock Hill, and it's a nice house, but there is a manufactured property right on the side of it that she rents out. So I would on that specific one, I would click will include it, and I would have to upload that additional addendum.
Okay.
So this one has the parcel ID number in here. It's not bad to put some of this other lot, block, all this other stuff, and again, you can typically find that in Realist. You can get some of that other information and put it in there. This is usually fine. Purchase price, we're just gonna make up a number. We'll just put 640.
So this is what you'll be offering. This is what you're offering.
Right. So we're running up an offer to put on that house. Due diligence.
No, the purchase price. Is the purchase price the price they listed for, or that's the price your client wants to purchase it for?
Yeah, this is the price that this is what we're offering.
Okay.
Because again, they've got it listed for 649.
649.
So we're gonna come in a little bit less. I mean, I'm just making up numbers. We'll just put 630, because that's probably what it'd be. Due diligence. How much do you have to put on due diligence? What percentage down?
Oh, I don't know. How do I find this? Is that something that you make up? Like that they make
up? It is. So there's no set number. So some agents, they rule of thumb, like, let me do 1% or 2%, or there's no set number. And obviously it depends on your client, right? I mean, if your client's having to go FHA, they probably don't have a lot of money down, so maybe they can only put a couple of grand down. It really depends. Obviously, the more money you put down, the better it is. But what's the risk of putting a lot of money down due diligence?
Hold on, because you can get your due diligence back, right? If it's within a certain time frame. So the risk would be, I don't know, like if you fall out.
Let me ask you this: what's the difference in due diligence and earnest money?
Due diligence is when you use that time to kind of figure out what's going on with the property, right? And you can say, hey, I don't want it, right? And you get your money back. Is that what
So,
due diligence is?
so that's the due diligence period, right? So so for example, on this one, I would probably give them 2 weeks. So I probably give them to July 10th for my due diligence period, right? And then at that point, if I cancel before then, I have the opportunity to back out of the contract by that date, right? Due diligence money is gone, right?
Oh, you don't get it back.
Yeah, you do not get due diligence money back in very, very, very rare situations, unless you have an agreement before. It just assume that due diligence money is gone, right?
So basically, you're paying to have the time to back out if you want.
That's exactly right. That's literally the best way you can phrase it. Yes, you're basically paying them to take their house off the market.
Okay,
is literally the best way to look at it. Earnest money goes directly to the attorney. It's kind of a good faith. The attorney holds that money, and then depending on why it falls through, if it falls through, it'll either go to the buyer or the seller, right? So that money for a buyer is not normally as risky, because in a lot of cases, the buyer will get their earnest money back. I just had a situation where the buyer did not get the money back. My seller kept it. But the due diligence, it's always gone, right? But to put in a strong offer, I mean, the more due diligence from a seller's point of view, the better, right? Because hey, if I put 8,000 right here, it's gonna be hard for them to walk away, right? Because that means within 24 hours of us accepting this offer, I'm gonna have 8 G's in my bank, and I'm putting that in my bank account, and they're not getting it back.
Okay.
On the other hand, if I see an offer as the listing agent, and this offer is $500, right? I spent $500 at the bar. That's they don't have a lot of skin in the game, right? So that's riskier for me to accept. Can you negotiate that if you're the seller and you get this offer? Like if you send this offer to the listing agent, could the listing agent say, hey, I don't like that amount on the due diligence?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, you can negotiate anything. So on this one, let's just say, what would you think on this one? Let's just say 6,000.
6,000. Yeah, I was gonna say 6,000.
So we'll just do 6,000, and then
what about the earnest money? So when would the earnest money be due? So due diligence is due within 24 hours of them like accepting it. When do they pay the earnest money?
Typically within 3 days, 3 to 5 days, typically. Once the attorney gets the documents and opens a file, the sooner the better. I mean, if you can get that same day as well, I mean, the sooner the better. Let's just say on this one, we're gonna do 4,000 earnest, right?
So is earnest typically lower than the due diligence?
A lot of times old school, it's a lot of times you see them the same. You might see 2,500. In today's market, from a seller's point of view, if you're the listing agent on this, if this client only had $5,000 total to put down, how would you rather see that money?
And due diligence.
Right. So say maybe do 3 and 2, or maybe do 4 and 1, right? I personally would rather see more due diligence, because it shows they have more, it says they have more skin in the game. So we're going to write them a personal check, deliver that money, and this will be a personal check as well. So we're putting an offer for 630 after the due diligence earnest money. That's another 620 that will come to them. Pretty simple stuff. So the buyer's initials are on here automatically. It's going to auto populate for you.
What did you just pass about the seller financing? What does that mean? What is seller financing?
Yeah, that's
is that when people say owner financing?
Right.
Basically, when it goes through the owner. Okay.
Yeah, so we won't dive into that, just because you probably won't do that a whole lot. But when that comes up, you'll definitely need to talk to your vicar or maybe someone else, because it gets a little bit more complicated. But on most traditional deals, you're going to deal with this one, and this one.
Okay.
And then this is the balance.
Okay.
Yeah, the seller financing is, they're going to, if it's a $600,000 house, maybe you put 200,000 down, and then he finances the other 400 over the next 10 years or something. And then those terms and things will be on that addendum.
Okay.
That makes sense. Escrow agent. So who picks out the attorney?
The seller.
The seller. So that's in the MLS. No, so in North Carolina, I was just asking. So you pick it. So the buyer gets to pick the attorney.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha. So for example, it's in Florida, the seller picks the title agent, right? They don't use attorneys in Florida. It's different, but the seller picks. And in North and South Carolina, the buyer picks the attorney that they're using. We use McMichael and Gray a lot. They're a phenomenal attorney. So I would write McMichael and Gray in here, right? I would ask my buyer that, hey, do you have a family attorney that you prefer? If not, then McMichael and Gray, right? Here in Charlotte, right? If it's up in Statesville, I would probably just Google real estate attorney, Statesville, and pick the closest one, right?
Okay. And do you need to call them and like talk to them beforehand, or just?
Nah.
No. Okay.
No, I mean, once it's done, I just send them the offer, and if for whatever reason they can't do it, then we'll have to change it, and you just have to have your client sign off that you're changing attorneys. But yeah, but even if they're out of town, a lot of times I still use McMichael and Gray because they're really good. So due diligence period, right? So today is June 26th. There's really no wrong and right answer here, but obviously the longer your due diligence period, the less attractive it is for the seller, right? Because that means they're off the market for that amount of time before they know if this is a done deal, right? What do you think a reasonable time for due diligence is?
I think did you say 2 weeks?
Yeah, so we usually, so I usually 2 to 3 weeks, right? So maybe on this one we go to the 14th, right? Today's the 26th. It's basically puts us at 2.5 weeks. And if you're financing, typically, it's about a 30-day process, and the lender will tell you, right? Like, hey, we could potentially close on July 25th, right? So basically a month out from today, right? So I'm usually going to go a month out if it's financing, and then those, the date can obviously change, but we'll put. I like to close on Thursdays. Thursdays are good because if something happens, you can still close on Friday. Where if you have it set on Friday and something happens, then you're delayed all the way till Monday, and then if they've got movers lined up, they're screwed because they can't do anything. But so we'll put Thursday the 27th. So that gives us a little bit over a month. And you should read this document, right? Like you should go through and read everything. For time's sake, we're obviously not going to do that, but you should know the offer of purchase kind of frontwards and backwards, right? Personal property, what would go here?
I don't know. Let me see.
So let's just say that, hey, they've got a brand new Samsung fridge that's got the screen on it with LCD. Like, I want that fridge. So we're gonna write that in the offer. And then also the building out back, right? So this obviously doesn't have a backyard because it's condo, but whatever the case is, but that's the stuff that you'll put in here that your buyer wants with the property, right? Obviously, if you start asking for their dryer and their sock collection and all their personal stuff, I mean, it gets into the weeds and it gets hard, and they're probably going to mark through all this stuff and say no. But just know this is where you can kind of put that stuff into the.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a client recently that there's a a knight, like a knight in shining armor. It's like a 5 foot tall, like metal one at the front door. And that's the only thing that she wanted to put in there.
No, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but yeah. So again, you want to kind of read through all this other different stuff. All right, so buyer representation, funds, are they going to pay cash? If it's cash, you're going to click here. If it's not cash, then you're going to click here. So it's going to be the first mortgage, and it's going to be FHA, VA, conventional, USDA. So again, you'll notice when you put the offer in, if it's VA or FHA, there's an additional addendum that you'll send, and you'll see that in SkySlope. But it just lets the seller know that, you know, if their financing doesn't go through, if it's FHA or VA, then they're not tied to purchasing the house. Other property, this is a big one. Does the buyer have to sell another property?
Oh, that's good.
So
would that be considered a contingency?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're clicking does, right, they do have to sell another property, right? That's fine. Like, I'm not going to not accept an offer because they have that, right? But you need to know where that is, right? And this is where, if you're helping buyers a lot, this is going to help you get more listings, because understand that if the buyer, if you're going to put buyer does need to sell another house, and buyer's house is not under contract or is not listed with an agent, no one's going to accept your offer, right?
Yeah, because how long is it going to take to sell it?
Yeah. So, hey, look, let me follow to your house right now. Let me take a quick look at it, get some pricing done. Let's get your house on the market by Wednesday, right? Okay. So that way we can at least put your address, house is, it won't be under contract yet, but at least it's on the market and it's listed, and it is listed and actively marketed by a licensed real estate agent, right? That's huge, right? Because some people are, you know, kind of like you asked the process earlier, you know, do I get a pre-approval or do I start finding houses? This is the same way, like, get your house listed and then start putting in offers. So when you have all these buyers, you know, some of them are going to have houses, and a lot of them are not going to understand the process. Show them this. Like, this is when we submit an offer, they're going to ask if we have a house and if it's at least listed with an agent. Let's do it, right? So this will help push that. And then obviously it says if it does not, then that's easy. You don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. Yeah, if it is under contract, click here. If it's not under contract, you know, click which one of these is. And again, if your buyer is attempting to sell property without assistance, they're doing forced sell by owner, and you're clicking this one. If you're the listing agent and you see an offer like that, it's not going to be as lucrative, right? Because you're, you know, there's a much bigger chance of forced sell by owner is going to fall through, right? And that's going to delay the closing, right? This was mentioning before of why you want to do the property disclosures. Buyer has received a signed copy of the properties disclosures. You want to be able to click yes. Yeah, and you can read through all this, but if you're clicking no, there's really no reason that you should be clicking no. Like, even if you're in a rush and you're putting in 5 offers, like, download the disclosures and the, you know, for the property disclosures and oil, mineral gas, and email it to them. Say, hey, take a look at this and look it over. But yeah, try to have that done. So this is for that one. This is for the oil, mineral gas. Seller has owned the house for at least 1 year. Yes, and we'll know that because it'll say that in the MLS. Seller owned for at least 1 year. Lead-based paint. Again, this is only applicable if it's prior to 1978, which this one is not. We're not going to get into all this, but this goes into, you know, do they have a fuel tank? there's not a full tank as far as you know, and some of that stuff will typically be in the MLS. It's not going to be applicable to a lot of stuff, but just kind of read through that, the seller obligations, having a clear title and all that stuff. Make sure you're reading through all this. Deed, who's going to be on the deed, right? So the deed is this, right here. So who's going to be on that? So typically that's going to be both your clients, right? This is a big one on page 10. So when you're filling this out on page 10, it's very important to put this in there. If you're on the other side, if you're on the listing side and you receive an offer, it's very important that you look at this page, right? Because it's very, very easy to miss this one. Seller shall pay at settlement blank towards buyer's expenses. So this is basically seller credit. This is where your client is asking the seller to pay basically their closing costs.
Okay.
Right. Which is not always a bad thing, but if you've got $5,000 in here and I send this over to the listing agent and they have their client sign it and they don't realize that there's a $5,000 in here, effectively this offer is a 625 offer, right? Right. But understand that an offer with a seller credit is not a bad offer, right? That just tells me that this buyer has done their research. They know how much money they need to close, which is good because their lender said, hey, if you close at this house on this price, you're going to need 15 grand total to close. You guys have 10 grand saved up. You're going to need a credit of 5 grand, right? So it's not a bad thing to have a seller credit at all. But you just need to make sure that you're explaining that if you're on the listing side, if you're on the buyer side, and you're having somebody that doesn't have the money say, hey, look, we can put in offers with the credit, right? And it makes you look like a genius because a lot of times they don't understand that, right? And a lot of people don't buy because they don't have a ton of money saved up, right? So this is huge for you. So if you've got a client that loves this $600,000 house and they don't have the 3.5% down, typically you can ask for about 3% of the price, right? So you could ask for $15,000 seller credit. So we can basically cover almost all their down payment right here, right? And get them in that house, right? So this is a big one. So talk to your lender. If your lender is saying, hey, they can't afford this house, they don't have the money to put down, say, hey, what if we do a credit, right? So there's a lot of workarounds. So home warranty, this is another big one. A lot of times it's good to have this in there. You need to have one of these clicked. No home warranty, buyer to obtain a 1-year warranty, and seller agrees to pay, or seller has already obtained one. I like to do this one. Buyer may obtain a 1-year warranty at no cost to exceed $750, and seller agrees to pay for the settlement, right?
Okay.
So that's a full 1-year home warranty that covers basically the whole house from top to bottom, even appliances. So it's nice to have that on the buy side. The worst thing they're going to do is typically say, no, we don't want to do home warranty, right? But it doesn't hurt to ask, right? It covers your buyer,
But then if they scratch it out and say no, like if you send it and then they send it back and say no, how would we proceed? Would the seller and buyer have to initial that again after it's been changed?
Yep. So everything that gets changed, here it is. Everything that gets changed will have a red mark and initial beside it. So if we send this to them and they sign it, but there's a couple of things that they've changed, right? Basically, they're sending us a counter. So maybe they don't even change. They might not even change the offer to purchase, right? If the only thing that they change is that credit amount and the warranty, it's still technically a counter, right? So even though there's signatures on all 16 pages and initials at the bottom of every page, if we got this back and this was changed, until we initial this part and whatever else they change, it wouldn't be an accepted contract. So yeah, so that's typically what you're going to do is you're going to add a strike through if they got it back, and then initial right beside it. So anytime there's ever a change, you just want to initial it.
Okay.
We won't dive into all this, but this is where all the different addendums. Sometimes you'll have seller possession before closing. Sometimes you'll have seller possession or buyer possession before closing. Sometimes you'll have seller possession after closing. I've had both of them happen. Just recently, actually. For example, this. Well, not this guy. Yeah, sometimes we'll have a seller that says, "Hey, I need longer after close to stay in the house." That's not too uncommon, right? Say, "Hey, look, I want to sell now, but I'm going to need 60 days to move out here. I have a ton of stuff, or I have to do this to the other house." So you would click this here, right? Every now and then you might have your seller do possession before closing. I think that's usually not a good idea, but you can do that. And there are times where maybe your client's lease runs up in 2 weeks. We can't close for what, 4.5 weeks because it's a mortgage. Maybe she would have nowhere to go, and maybe the seller would say, "Hey, look, I'll let you move in before closing," right? Okay. But you would have to have your ducks in a row, right? You'd have to be past that due diligence period. Financing would have to be very solid and things like that. But it's possible.
But we just usually check possession is subject to right of tenants. Because is this something that has to be checked?
No, I this is normally just left blank.
Okay.
These are the addendums again. Your client, again, in this example, is FHA. I'm putting that here. Lead-based paint. It's a vacation rental, whatever the case may be. This is where you'll click those, and then you would send those addendums along with this document. Your client sign on page 14. Got the wire fraud warning. On page 15. This is where your information is going to be. Firm license should automatically be in there. I'm not sure why it's not. In this example, the buyer's agent, and then Paul is the seller's agent. This should all be filled out. It automatically did some of it for me. Where am I going to get this information?
No. Is it on the MLS?
So this is at the bottom of the MLS. The listing agent will be here. It's not showing all this stuff, but if I click on his name, it brings all this up, right?
Okay.
So I'm going to copy his license number. Copy here. That's his firm license, his agent license. So he got his email, his phone number. Let me grab his phone real quick. I won't do all this, but you're just going to copy.
Where is the agent license? I mean, the firm license. Is that office ID?
Yeah, so that's going to be firm licenses right here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see.
So all that information will be right here. Email address, their firm address. When I get an offer and none of this stuff is filled out, it's very frustrating, right? Because it needs to be filled out. So if you're putting an offer in, do the extra work, make sure this is filled out from head to toe. It looks a lot better. Yeah. Page 16, which is the last page of the offer, is acknowledgement of receipt of monies, right? This page will be left blank, right? Because they can't sign it now because they haven't extended the money, right? So let's just say they accept this offer the week we get done, right? And then tomorrow you hand deliver the checks for the earnest money and the due diligence money. At that point in time, this would get signed, right? So the listing agent would have their client sign, "Hey, they received the due diligence money from your buyer." And then the attorney would sign saying that they received money for the earnest money, right?
Okay.
So this is page 16, right?
So page 16 is left blank when we submit the offer.
Right? Yeah, you'll have these numbers on here, but it's not signed. So it's not signed until afterwards. So I'm being on the listing side, I'm normally having to fill this out, right? But on the buyer side, you want to ask for this right away, right? So once your people have given the money for earnest and due diligence, you want to be barking at the listing agent to get you page 16 signed back, right? Because you need that for your documents. If you go through the whole process and get everything done, you will not be able to close your file without having page 16 signed. You just won't get paid on your deal until it gets signed. And once it's closed, getting hold of that listing agent is not going to be super easy, right? So just try. You want to try to get this filled out ASAP. But it's a very important page that they acknowledge it. And when I have a buyer drop off money, if they drop it off or I drop it off, and I always take a picture of the front and back of each check, so I have that on record. If I'm dropping it off in somebody's mailbox, I'm taking a picture of it. If I'm handing it to them in person, I might have them sign it in person. But yeah, just make sure that happens quickly, because the last thing you want is being like, oh, I actually never received that $6,000 check, right? That would be
horrible.
Not good. So the property disclosures, right, that you need to get signed, those are not going to auto-populate, right? Because they're forms that have already been signed and filled out by someone else. So what we're going to be doing is adding signatures, right?
Okay.
So sign the field, make this one Carl. I'm not going to do both of theirs, but then you'll go through and then initial, and you'll just start adding the initials on those, right? So you'll have to do that ones that are already filled out, and then you'll save it and you send it to your client.
Okay.
Any questions about that? Again, you'll have questions when you do it for the first time or two, obviously, but the most important thing for you to do is I think either download it as a PDF or print it off and just go through each page, so you know how to explain it to your client, right? When they ask you specific questions. For the most part, it's fairly self-explanatory, but it is nice to have read through it on a regular basis. And this changes. I mean, it'll change again in a month, probably, the paperwork. Actually, I think here in a couple of weeks, there'll be revisions to it. So you'll want to make sure that you keep track of.
Keep reading it.
Like this wasn't here last year. This property will include.
Manufactured homes.
Right. So little things like that will get added and taken off from time to time. But you know in your forms is very important. So once you do that and they sign it, so I would share it, they'll sign it, and then once I have it signed, I would download that and email it to that agent. Right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Now,
so
I do have a question. I see you're in dotloop. Is this going to be any different on SkySlope? Like, is it going to be any different?
They're very, very similar.
Okay.
I just use dotloop with my previous company, and I really
I think he told me.
It just does a couple of things different that I prefer. Honestly, SkySlope is easier. The problem with me using dotloop is I still have to upload everything to SkySlope, so I'm actually doing double the work, which makes no sense.
But you're comfortable with it already, so you already know how to do it.
So get used to SkySlope, and the first time you've already been in there, right? You've already got stuff in there, so it sounds like you're already set up correctly in there. But play around with it. I mean, it doesn't hurt to go in there. Do a listing for your house, right? Create you as a client. Make yourself a listing. Go through all that, and then you can just delete it afterwards. But get used to that paperwork. Get used to putting in offers. You can send it to yourself, and you can sign it. Again, if this was signed, for example, I would go in here and download it. Let's download it, and then I'm going to email it to the agent, right? So again, to find the agent's email address, it's in here. I would copy this. Let's just say here, and then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then just send it to them.
And then I would do whatever. Copy this and just say
offer.
and then I would attach that document, right? And then say, hey, Paul, thanks so much for chatting with me earlier. Like I mentioned, my client loves your house. Here's the offer to purchase. We really look forward to working with you, or whatever. And you know, sometimes it's nice to put, you know, this is the details of the offer, right? We're going to go ahead and offer 630 with 6,000 due diligence money down, 3,000 earnest money. We can close by or earlier than July 31st. Sometimes having all that, the details of it is very nice. And from the listing point of view, it is nice to be able to see that without clicking. So if I'm driving in my car and I get an offer to purchase, me reading all that while driving is not smart or safe. But having that stuff is very easy. And a lot of times you can kind of copy and paste that and send it to your client. But that's how I do it. So if I was, again, I prefer than just looking at this screen and like just talking to you. It's just much easier for me to kind of go through and do an example. So hopefully that was helpful.
No, it was very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just suggest, you know, playing around with it and getting used to it. And then obviously when you do that first, you know, contract or two, if you want to do a screen share, and I can jump on your screen or vice versa, and we can, you know, walk through it and get that set up. But yeah,
sounds perfect. You know, I'll hold you to it because I have no problem with asking questions.
No, listen, the people that have had the most success early are the people that blow me up or blow us up and ask questions, because if you're asking questions, it means you have clients, it means you're working. So by all means, call away.
Okay. Well, let's get us some offers in soon.
yeah. Start showing some houses, get those pre-approvals. Yeah, that's all I have for you. If you need anything else from me, obviously, you know, you can call or text me anytime.
Okay, that sounds perfect. Let's have a great week.
All right, see you.
Okay, Brian, thank you so much.
See ya.